Good evening. Welcome to another episode. Tonight we're discussing relationship challenges and how it impacts our mental health. Straight away, I want to kick off with you, Nancy, because you love like connecting, but we fail to connect with ourselves half the time, don't we?
Oh, I don't know which the percentage is on it on any given Sunday. I love relating life to the game of football because on any given Sunday, if you haven't seen the movie, great movie. Man, I love sports movies. I really truly do. They tell such great messaging, and to understand sports more is to understand the male perspective on the game of life and the female perspective on the game of life. We were talking about that before the show, Adam.
Mm-hmm.
Movies like Beaches and Stepmom to understand the intimacy of the goddess relationship. So, well, every day is a new day. Every day is a new day. The focus on self is so much about boundaries. And when we don't understand boundaries, then we are running into penalty moments and repeating downs in life, just like in football, right? It's about understanding yourself and how you play the game, clearly communicating that to the other people in your life and allowing them to play their own game too.
Yes.
Remember, it is not your responsibility to make sure others are responsible.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, that's as it is. It's all about taking that accountability for how we approach these situations instead of constantly playing the blame game on who did this, who did that, who gives a shit. Take actions yourself.
Compassion,
Ex-
forgiveness,
Yeah,
patience, acceptance, ahimsa to self
yeah,
and others. Got to work on
absolutely.
yourself. You have to work on yourself and learn how to relate to the people that you're playing the game of life with.
Yes.
Richard, what do you think?
I agree, but I also realize that I love my bride. She's my heart. She's my everything. But it's not my job to make her happy, to keep her happy. I can't do that. If she makes up in a bad mood and I'm in a great mood, I can't let it affect my good mood. So sometimes you just have to say, listen, you want to be miserable, you want to be in the shit. Guess what? I'm not going to be miserable because, like, even the Bible says you have to run your own race. And if you want to run your own race, sometimes you got to lap a couple people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
Annette, welcome back. Firstly, welcome back.
Thank you.
How are you? How does it feel to be back here?
Feels good. Feels right. Good timing.
Perfect.
Because when you approached me about a topic, and I thought, what a better topic to talk about after my year of self-reflection, inner work on my relationship breakdown, and how it impacted my mental health. I thought, yeah, let's go there. And yeah, seeing your faces again and hearing the topics and the changes that have happened, I'm happy I'm back, and
That's
I look forward to starting up my podcast again. I um, I chose this topic specifically because um, the sometimes I think when people talk about a relationship breakdown, they sometimes I have to look at it as a relationship breakthrough, because I redefined myself, I redefined relationships, I redefined how I felt about specific people in my life, and I'm closer to these people now that I'm not actually in a intimate relationship with them, right? So it's an interesting juxtaposition, I guess you would say, where I'm discovering what it's like to be friends with an ex partner and how that impacted both of our mental health. And now it's easy to, like, when you strip away everything from all the I went through a lot of expectations about what I expected in the relationship. I looked deeply at myself and how I was causing my mental health to deteriorate by not keeping the focus on my needs in the relationship, right? So being back was such a deep topic for myself, and to get your feedback and insight on this. I don't think it's a topic that's really discussed a lot, is the after effects of a relationship breakdown and how it impacted your mental health. You know, a lot of people go through a lot of time just holding on to anger, or, you know, the blame game, like you guys said, and all the stuff that goes around it. Like, I was making some notes here about boundaries, responsibility, how you play the game. Like, all your feedback is so relevant to, you know, the breakdown and how to deal with your mental health after that.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm really happy to be back. I'm really happy I can open up and share what I've been going through and where I am today, much more in tune to my mental health again. Yeah, and I look forward to doing some more podcasts with you guys.
Absolutely, and we look forward to seeing you again. Which obviously you've prompted me now. Before we go over to Ashley, who's probably got a coffee now, I ain't got a clue. Next week, when we're focused on the blame game and stuff like that, that's actually hinting at the next week's topic, which is actually, cool. And I know Nancy isn't going to be here for that, which is such a shame, because we wanted her there, and it's actually, don't judge someone just because of the behavior.
Yeah.
We'll talk about aspects of that many times, I'm sure.
Of course we will. So Ashley, when I brought up the title for tonight last week, you was pretty much going on a rant about it.
It wasn't this week's topic. It was topic that's in 2 weeks. But we're not going to divulge that yet. No, as far as the relationship breakdown, this is something that I experienced after my illness 6 years ago. And Nancy, I like how you said every day is a new start. You know, it's fresh. But one of the motto cards that I pulled for myself yesterday is every day is a fresh start. So when you said that, I was like, oh, Nance. So after my illness, there was a lot of breakdown in communication. There was a lot of high expectations, and personally, it impacted what I thought about myself. I thought it was that self-reflection of who I am, that I was unworthy to be loved by my husband, that I wasn't good enough. All of the things started to really play on repeat in my head. And that was very difficult for me. I had very high expectations of my husband after I was sick, of, hey, buddy, like, I literally almost died and you're still treating it like it's everyday life. Like, we must just go on and not deal with it and not address it and not make changes. So after a discussion with a real close friend and pastor at the time, he almost snapped me back to reality in a conversation of, why are you still married? Because love isn't the reason that can keep you together. And quite honestly, I couldn't even answer the freaking question. I was like, well, we've got kids. We love each other. Like, and he's like, no, that's not enough. But he's like, Ashley, I want you to remember where your value comes from. It doesn't come from your husband. It comes from the one who created you. And I was like, okay. And then, like, a light bulb flipped. If I wanted changes to happen in my marriage, I had to begin to make changes with me versus expecting my husband to meet every need that I wanted, to take me on vacations, to do all of the memory making things with me and the kids and all of this stuff, and expecting him to change who he was if I wasn't willing to lower the expectation of he's not going to meet those needs like I want him to meet those needs. So what am I willing to change within myself? How can we make this work in the dynamic that we have and still find that joy and that happiness within me, not externally? So that's where that shift began to happen. And now our marriage is completely different than what it was then, but it was damn near on the brink of divorce. It was that rough. Like, we were in rock bottom pit. And that wasn't the first time we had been there either. But that'll happen on, a couple shows from now where you learn more about the first time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it can be hard. It can be, especially, I have to reframe on addiction as well, because that can really impact a relationship. Because obviously, as people know, me and Kerry, we've been together on and off coming up to 16 years now. And I say about 13 years of that, my partner was the drink. I can admit that. It was the drink. But I'm not that person anymore. I'm not a character.
That's very brave to say that out loud. That's a very vulnerable statement. Yeah. I want to go back to Annette when she was talking about the, I was going to say a word and then spirits like dissolve of the relationship as it was. Because when we look at relationships and we talk about breakdown, I see it as more of a dissolving. There are. It's like when we fall out of our, when we relapse, the relapse is an indicator of a problem that has been there for some time. So relationships begin to dissolve over time. And there's a beautiful quote: when the lightning strikes the sand, it creates something extraordinary. So when you look at a lightning rod and the impact of lightning onto that rod in the sand, it creates a beautiful glass sculpture. I don't know if any of you ever seen it or not. Absolutely extraordinary. Just as marriage transforms two into one. Beautiful quote. And each one must work on themselves so that the relationship is sustainable.
Yeah.
Sustainable. That honeymoon phase when we're, oh, Richard, I love everything about you. Oh, right? Like, it's cute, it's sweet, it's romantic, it's idolized, and it's ineffective for sustainability. So that relationship with self is very important for both, and constant communication, that check-in. And, I appreciate so much what Richard said about his wife and her responsibility. It's not anyone's job to rescue people from their drama.
No.
It's not your job to rescue anybody from their drama. We're all capable of rescuing ourselves. It's that scenario when you're on a plane, you reach up, you grab your own air. If you're scuba diving, you suck on your own tank. There's a lot of them out there, right? God helps those who help themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously we've got a couple of comments from Kerry Hulk. Welcome, by the way. She's put, I've been married maybe 14 years, I don't remember, but he is a person who bases his happiness, reason for being, reason to get up in the morning, and I tell him, you cannot base your happiness on a person, which we've just been discussing. Because you have to get up because you want to get up for you, not for another person. And that's what people are doing. They're still people pleasing in a relationship. And my view on it, I think when you're relying on a person too much, that's dragging them down rather than lifting them up. Am I right?
I agree 100%, but now I'm going to stir the pot because I like to stir pots. I believe that love is a commitment. Love is not an emotion. So these people that fall in and out of love every 3 weeks, that's not love. That's not love at all. That's just an emotion. Like I may
Like
love,
infatuation.
I love
Yes.
my bride. She's my everything, but she drives me up the fucking wall. and I don't like her all the time, but I love her. And there's a difference. I know I told her, if you're going to divorce me and leave me, I'm going with you. So we're never going to get divorced because I'm that committed to you. And I'll do whatever it takes to keep us together, both of us healthy. But now another reason why guys and girls get into problems, and I'm speaking to guys now, I can't speak to girls. I know unmet expectations, and your partner doesn't even know you expect anything from them, but you're expecting something. Like me, if I come home with flowers for my wife, chocolates, I go buy dinner, and we go get in bed at night, she turns off the light, and I'm going to be all pissed off at an expectation that she didn't even know she had. So for guys, if you're having problems with expectations, make sure the other person knows that something is expected.
Oh, Richard, you just nailed it on the head.
Yeah.
Sorry, Adam. I just had to say that.
No, absolutely, yeah.
I agree.
Last week, choose your fucking hard. It's hard to get divorced, Richard. You know that. Annette, Annette, you know that. Nancy, you know that. It's hard to get divorced.
When I got married, this is the relationship I just walked away from recently is like my third attempt at a long-term relationship. But my marriage, that was like, for me, a marriage is forever. Right. So if I were to ever remarry, it's forever. I didn't divorce him. He divorced me.
Yeah.
But the case is, I believe, like Richard, I believe you stay in it committed, you work at it together. It's a day-to-day thing. But when you have a partner that is shut down and for me, it's an addiction, but for him, it's what makes him happy. So I didn't get my needs met. So I started fulfilling my own needs, and then it turned into a friendship. But we function better as friends because there's not those same expectations. But that's a difficult thing to come to conclusion on, a lot of inner work for myself to realize if I'm not getting my needs met, no matter what they are, right? Don't have to go into details. But if my needs aren't being met, who's responsible for getting those needs met? Me. Yeah. And I wasn't doing that. So a lot of times I'm not honest with myself. And when I finally sat down with myself and made all those connections, why couldn't I stop doing my addictive behavior? Why did I pick up new addictive behaviors during the relationship? It was because I was doing the people pleasing. I was doing the lack of not communicating. But there's a tipping point, right? Like how Nancy said about the dissolving of the relationship. I knew that 4 years ago that the relationship was dissolving because I'm on a constant journey. Hopefully most people, if you're enlightened and you're aware of your mental health issues and you take care of yourself, you're constantly evolving, you're constantly growing. And if your partner is stagnant, then there is a dissolve, what do you call it? The relationship just kind of dies. It dies off. But the love is never gone. I still love him. I still care very deeply for him. I still visit him regularly. We still go out. We do everything, but I've set the boundary and put the responsibility and the onus on me to keep it clear now that I have found my voice, that for my mental health stake, I need to meet my own needs. And that is the biggest thing that came out of this breakdown, was that if my needs aren't met, my mental health is affected.
Yeah.
And
Well,
something
and
I want to give it. Kerry said something that is really profound. Is we should celebrate our partner's successes, because a lot of people, especially guys that are alpha males, when their wives start to catch up to them or even pass them, they don't celebrate their successes. And like I think we talked about it last week, if your spouse is not a teammate but it's an opponent, guess what? Your marriage is going to be doomed. You know what I mean? So make sure that your spouse is your teammate, not the opponent.
Yeah.
Well, and there's that learning curve, you know, when my husband and I got together, even when we were dating, because we're children of divorced parents, we said to each other, divorce is not an option. Whatever comes our way, we're going to address it and we're going to get through it, because every single obstacle that we have had, even being on the brink, if you will, of even separation, it has made us stronger in the end, because it's something that we are like, we're not going to put our kids through that. It's those minuscule sometimes things that are reoccurring, meaning we've never dealt with them appropriately. So there's been a lot of stuff that we have had to dig through in our almost 20 years of being together, married for, it'll be 17 this June. Like, all of those things, like the baggage that we've had to deal with, some things still surface, but it's been that learning curve of, okay, if I'm not meeting your needs, you're pissed off. Like, straight up, you give me the cold shoulder because I didn't meet that need. And he can voice it, but part of him has to understand that mama isn't always in the mood. So it's one of those things of, okay, how can we navigate this? How can we work through this to still make sure that everybody's happy at the end of the day regarding that department? And it's not always perfect, but it's definitely better than where it was, because there were moments, and again, we'll talk about this in a couple weeks, but especially in the moments, not even necessarily early in our marriage, but during pregnancy and after having babies and all the things, like, his needs were far from being met. And it was like we were roommates. So if you don't want a roommate type of a marriage, then you have to have those difficult conversations, and you have to be willing to be vulnerable with your spouse, express what it is that you need and you want, and they have to be willing to do the same thing. It's a give and take in the relationship, not just to take all the time. And there have been times that I have called my husband out and said, your ego and your pride, it makes me want to have nothing to do with you, because it isn't about you. It's not about me either. But sometimes it's nice where it is just about me. Let's be honest. We all have that tendency. But we have to drop the pride type of an attitude that if you don't give me what I want, then I'm just going to push you away. And I'm, if it's a one-time occurrence, fine. But if it's a repetitive thing, and I've had roles reversed between me and my husband after I had been sick, and then all of a sudden he had some hormone issues, I was like, oh, shit. This is what rejection feels like from your spouse, and it sucks. And my response was, you better figure it out, because I can't figure it out for you, because this cannot continue.
Yeah.
So I've had that role reversal where I got a taste of my own medicine of what that rejection in the bedroom feels like. Oh, it's god awful. It's not fun. But again, if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be able to understand and pay attention to his cues when he does need something met. And then now it's like it's an automatic for me because I've had that experience of going through those situations. So sometimes it's those silent cues that they give you without verbalizing it. And if you're in tune with each other, you notice it and you can read it.
The body speaks. The body
Yeah.
speaks. Look at
Body speaks really loud.
Body language.
Yes.
We all have it. And if you think that you're playing poker with your body and people don't know what you're thinking,
Fuck
open
it,
up
I'm
your
just going to
yes.
say it. I'm just going to say it.
Right.
Sex isn't everything.
Of course not.
It's
And
not.
intimacy is important.
It's important, but it's not priority.
It
I'd like to
depends
touch a
on
little
the
bit
man.
on. I'd like to touch a
I'm
little
a
bit on
woman.
what Ashley said.
Go on, Annette.
Oh, geez, now it's gone out. Totally left.
Well, when you remember.
Yeah, she was talking about the part about, oh God, now I can't even think of it.
He'll come.
The rejection.
There we go.
The rejection part. So, first and foremost, if you, and I'm not talking about just sexual rejection. I'm talking about attention rejection, participation rejection, inclusion rejection. So what I learned was these were all these things that were unmet when I was a child, right? So I've done a lot of inner child work, and I did it way back in therapy 15 years ago, and something said to me, you know what, maybe I've had a few light bulbs, right? Like visions of why I keep picking certain partners in a father kind of role, right? So here's my partner who's sitting playing video games constantly, sitting in front of the TV constantly, and me wanting to do things and go out and have fun. And then there's no attention. There's constantly rejection. So that kind of wears on your self-esteem. So I had to go back and work on my self-esteem, how it impacted my mental health. And when I finally had that vision, like, it was so strong. Here was a memory of my father always in front of a television and never paying attention to me as a child, except negative attention. That's another topic for another show. But and so when those kind of light bulbs go off and you start to realize, oh, I'm in this relationship because I'm still dealing with my father issues, it was like mind blowing, right? So it's like, okay, there's more healing for me to do, but I can't do it in the relationship with him as me seeing him as a father figure. And I was also dealing with mother issues. So much stuff came up. And, a lot of the times people who are in these 50, 60-year-long marriages, I'm like, I applaud them. But I've also seen the damage that they do to one another. I just had a big incident of something around that where I was with work, and how the husband abused the wife. And it was just like, divorce has a place in society, I suppose, when you are in a toxic relationship that's physically, emotionally, financially abusive. I mean, but maybe that's why I'm going off in left field, but maybe that's why women's lib happened, because women wanted to break free from that bubble that we had to always have a man to rely on. And I struggled with that. I struggled with that father figure, mother figure, all of these things from my mental health impacted about these things. So now stepping away from the relationship, allowing it to break down, letting it to dissolve, left me with this strength, inner strength that I never knew I had. And I think it's really important for us to recognize that a lot of times women stigmatize themselves that I have to be strong for my man and I have to be strong for the children and I got to stay in the marriage for all the wrong reasons. And it's just the rejection wears you down to a level where you feel so lost.
Yeah. I've
Someone wants to
connected.
say hi.
Hey, hi, Carrie.
Long time no see, Annette.
It's good to see you. How's the babes?
Just gone sleep.
Oh, nice.
Peaceful. So much of what you said, Annette.
Yes.
Go Ash.
Yeah. Well, and I can definitely relate to the father issues, especially when you're talking about the rejection piece. I had a lot of connections over the years that I've made. And then last year, I had even deeper connections that were made for me regarding the father rejection and how it ties into my marriage and why I react the way that I do. Because I'm arrested in that development of some of those ages where those rejection things have happened. And even pieces with my stepmom and things like that, that if I get an email from somebody like my mother-in-law or something, I immediately get anxious. And that anxiety starts to creep up because it's like, oh shit, what did I do now? What criticism am I going to get now? What evil thing did I do this time? And like all of that stuff starts to spin in my head.
Yeah.
And it makes me anxious because of things that happened when I was a teenager. And I wasn't physically abused by anybody, but there was a lot of emotional shit that had happened. So I get where that, that rejection and how you gauge, upcoming relationships and all of those things off of things that happened in the past most times where, that healing has to begin with you. And you got to break the cycles of all of the things from the past. And it can either stop with you or it can continue with you. It's up to you. That decision. And we decided even when we got together that the buck stopped with us. We weren't going to continue those toxic things that our parents, our aunts, our uncle, like whoever, we weren't going to continue in that cycle of lifestyle. It was done with us. And that's a huge thing that you get backlash for. Yeah. As a parent, as a daughter, a niece, whatever. But then again, you make the decision, are you going to stop people pleasing? I don't give a shit what you think. That's your opinion. You don't pay my bills. So your opinion has no weight on how I'm going to live my life and how I'm going to raise my children. So mind your own.
Okay. I want to bring this up and I want to ask everybody, even in the comments as well, why do people stay together just because of the kids? Because that is the biggest problem these days. Because who are they actually thinking about? Because in the moment, they're probably thinking about the kids, but they're not really. They're not seeing reality, the bigger picture, that when they're at each other's throats, they're actually not just traumatizing each other, but they're traumatizing the kids. Because they think
Adam,
kids won't listen.
My fucking memoir.
You do what you need to do, love.
Have you read my memoir, Adam? Fuck. Buddy. Financial abuse, emotional abuse, spiritual abuse, physical abuse. You don't know you're in the water, man. You don't know you're in the trenches.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know you're in the trenches. It's not as easy as that. I had 2 stepsons. The choice was take 2, leave 2. I had no legal right to bring my stepsons with me. Leave them with the monster? My life
But not
was
only that,
threatened if I
Nance,
left. My life was threatened if I left. Go ahead, leave. See what's going to happen. It's not a
but not
cookie cutter.
but only not only that, like Carrie, the other Carrie, you know, she's from New Jersey, and most guys in New Jersey, and excuse my language, we
Just
know
say it.
that if we go for divorce, we're getting fucked
Yeah.
because of child support. We're getting fucked hard. I got a guy he's got 3 kids and he's not getting divorced because he'll know he's going to have to pay over $2,000 a month in child support. So a lot of guys are just like, fuck it. I'll stay where I'm at because if I get divorced, I'm going to be broke. I'm going to be poor anyway. I might as well stay right where I'm at. And that goes the financial abuse that we talked about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are so many reasons within the matrix of relationships why we make the decisions that we make. You know, it's so hard to just give a straight answer on that situation. There's also, I'm going to break it down a little bit further. There's soul contracts, there's divine contracts. You came into this lifetime with this person for a reason. It's bigger than just the this is a linear experience between the first day you live and the last day that you die. These people are in your lives for a reason. If I had not stayed in my relationship, I wouldn't have written the book that I wrote, and it's a damn good book.
Yeah, what you're talking about, Nancy, really reflects a lot on me because when I finally decided that enough was enough to come out of denial and start being honest with myself about the relationships I've been in and the progress I do within each relationship. I knew this way back then that every person, like where energy goes, you know, stuff flows. So my thoughts were off of myself and more on the other party, what they were doing. So if he was simply in my life to be a pointer to say, hey, you chose this relationship so you could learn all about your father figure issues. Now, it wasn't just one man. There was 2 men in my life because his father, I was deeply affected by too, because he represented the older male version of my father that never gave me attention. And it was such a juggling act for me to, like, I was almost playing the role of mother, wife for it was almost like the role of wife was with the father of my boyfriend, and I was doing the mother to the boyfriend. It was so messed up in my head because of all my mental health issues from neglect and the lack of just lack of everything from my childhood. And I'm grateful. I'm honest to God grateful that these 2 men came into my life at this time to teach me all of these lessons, and that I woke up and went, holy shit, I am being a wife to one and a mother to another. And what happened to me? Right? So once I woke up to that fact, my initial reaction is anger. And I run away, flight, fight, freeze, fawn, whatever the case may be. And then I started to take a really deep reflection about, what am I not doing for myself? Why am I expecting all these people to fulfill all these things, my needs for me? Can I balance it where I can have relationships with these people as family, like as family, not as my intimate partner, as being a wife, or strip away all these stupid roles. And to come back to Adam's thing about staying in a relationship for the children, it's for me, it was my mother who gave me that example. I stayed in my marriage. I could have ended up dying in that marriage by his hand. I stayed until God Almighty himself came down from the heavens and plucked me out of that country and brought me back to Canada. And I stayed for the children. I stayed because they were my life. All right. If you've ever done a grid of life, which is what I work with, 50% of it was my relationship with my husband, and now the other 50% was my children. I had no other parts of my life. I had no hobbies. I had no community interests. I had no self-development. I had no me time. It was my kids and my husband, and that was my life. And that's what my mother exhibited. She was my role model.
Absolutely. Going to Richard's powerful comment. Let's talk about it. Love language. Let's talk about it. Richard, hit us up. Go on.
Well, the reason why I brought it up is, and like I said, I can only speak for men. I'm not smart enough to speak for women, and I know they're smarter than I am.
I don't think any of us are. We don't want to get inside the woman's head. That's just...
Also, and I told us, I think, a story a couple months ago. For the first 15 years of my marriage, I bought my wife flowers every week. And I thought she liked flowers until one day she's like, dumbass. I appreciate the thought, but I don't like flowers. And then I'm like, so then I had to go read the book, The 5 Love Languages, to find out what are my wife's, what does she actually like? And I think once you start to learn, now this is for guys and for girls, once you start to know their love language or what they really want and not what you think that they want, because guys are simple. Guys, I'm going to tell you right now, men are simple. And I was on a plane ride from somewhere, and I was sitting next to an 85-year-old lady. She said she's married for 75 years. No, 65 years. Said, how'd you do it? She says, I keep his balls empty and his stomach full. And she said, men are simple. We're not that complicated, guys. But all kidding aside, I think that we need to know what our partners really like and not what we think that they like and enjoy.
Okay. Let me bring this up, because I think this is really, really relevant.
Physical touch is very important for many people in relationships. Yeah. Being one of the love language. One of the love languages, physical touch, words of affirmation. And words of affirmation don't mean what you're telling everybody about your spouse.
Yeah.
It's what you're telling your spouse about your spouse. I tell everyone how amazing you are. Don't fucking tell everybody how amazing I am. Tell me.
Okay. This is what I want to ask females this. I really do. And I'm probably going to get self-criticisms here. I really don't know. But flowers, is it really obligated that men always have to get the woman flowers rather than return the favor and women get men flowers?
Obviously, no. I learned that. No.
It's not a man-woman thing. It's a love language. It's a love language. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, whether you got a vagina or a penis. Love languages are based on the human being. And there are many, many men who gifts are very important. There are many women whose gifts are very important. Sometimes it's what gift. Sometimes it can be physical touch for a gift. If your wife enjoys, okay, I'm going to clarify that very, very quickly. If your wife enjoys physical touch, the gift of a massage may be a very kind gesture. There are ways to help, with self-love, with self-care. Read the book, take the test. It's online. Hey, Richard, you don't even have to read the book. Take the test, do the test together, share. That's how you can continue to build a relationship so the relationship doesn't break down. It's like Lego. Build it.
That's a good analogy, Nancy.
Like I could talk to guys and they would give me every statistic for a baseball player that played in the 70s. But then if I ask, what does your wife really like? They look at you like, Elmer Fudd, and you're like, I got
Well,
nothing.
and oftentimes your wife will display her gift to you by what she's doing. So if you have a love language of physical touch, your wife will typically be touching and huggy and touchy-feely, and you think she's clingy. Dumbass. She's giving you indication. She wants you to give that to her. But
FYI, I'm getting the death stare right now off Kerry.
yeah, well, I've had this conversation.
Now pick
with
up
you,
the
Nat.
clue. Jesus Christ.
Yes, you have to pick up the clue. So for me, it's physical touch in a non-emphasis on
Non-sexual way. Right?
You don't want any more kids, Ashley, do you?
No, we're not.
It's
having
not
more
about
kids.
wanting children. It's not about the eggs I have in my nest.
I know.
It's about the way that I want to be physically touched. Rub my fucking feet once in a while.
Yeah, or play with my hair. Like if you want your physical touch need met, then you better best be meeting mine first, and then I will jump on you. That's how I've had to sometimes address it with my husband. The other day, there was a conversation between us, and I'm like, I'm more than tits and ass for you, buddy. Rub my back. And he looked at me like, wow. I was like, yeah, that's right. Stop trying to get sex from me and fulfill my need of just rub my back. Just touch, you know? Or my other love language is quality time. I want to go places with you. I want to make memories with just you. I want you to take me out to dinner. Even if you want me just to go to the damn store with you to get materials, like I want to be with you, not with the kids, just me and you. So those are my two back-to-back like love languages. Him, it's words of affirmation and that physical touch for him in the sexual manner. But for me, it's the opposite. So it's like I sometimes have to, again, surrender to that and let him know, like, hey, I'm willing to meet your needs. And most times if I meet that need for him, he will turn around and reciprocate. But sometimes the lines get a little blurred where he won't reciprocate at first, realizing, okay, just meet my needs. And again, that's that pride, that's that ego. Like, no, you meet mine first. Well, guess what? I was just with the kids all freaking day. I'm sensoried out. Like, just rub my back. Don't expect anything in return. But again, you got to have that communication with each other. Yeah. Because if you don't know what your spouse has for that love language, like Nancy said, you're going to have that breakdown. And you're going to be like, well, I don't know what it is. Like women are going to be foreign to you because you're not willing to learn. You're not willing to explore and be in that position to get it wrong sometimes. But then once you find it, that connection you build and that relationship and communication, it's a game changer.
Can I say something?
Go for it.
Another big game changer that I realized during this time over the last year for myself was nobody can meet all our needs, not even ourselves. We can get our own needs met from ourselves because some subconsciously we don't even know they're there, right? We just feel the anxiety, we feel the depression, we feel we're discombobulated. And we, honest to God, don't know what's going on with ourselves. So how is our partner supposed to know? So when I finally, that's why for me in a relationship, it's really important to have, as much as it's important, like Ashley describes, one of the things to connect with is just go out to the store with me kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But the other side of the coin is, leave me the fuck alone. I get on my snowshoes. I'll give you a great example. I slap on my snowshoes and I go out into the forest and I just reflect on the beauty of nature. And I don't want my partner with me. Go do whatever, because that time apart brings you back together. I mean, we are a creation of so many different types of atoms that it, it's difficult to figure
thanks.
ourselves out.
I'm joking.
Not atoms, but atoms.
Okay,
And,
right. Yeah.
I
bring
think
up. Oh, yeah,
I think that's really, really important when you start with self-love, right? When you start with joy. I love it that Nancy and Ashley both have self-love and joy, because this year I picked for my birthday the card, my oracle cards, joy. And self-love has always been the basis of everything I do. So start there. Start looking at yourself. Start with, how is this relationship? Is the cons more, like the list longer than the pros? Can you change any of these things? How is it affecting my mental health? Why am I not looking after my mental health? Why is my focus more on that person and not on myself? These are all these kind of questions you have to go through, right? And if at the end of the day you find that the pros list is better than the cons list, then you work at the relationship. But if it's not, it's time to take a deep, hard look at yourself and go, my mental health is more important. My needs need to get met. I'm not getting it in this relationship. I can't, I've done everything I can do, and I need to move on. And there's no shame or guilt in that.
No. And adding on to that, and adding on to Richard's comment about love, I get it. When we've gone through trauma, gone through shit in our life, we always want, and we didn't feel loved by our parents or relatives, whatever, we use someone to try and fill that hole, even though we don't love ourselves. So why do we find it so easy to get into relationships that clearly are going to fail when we don't love ourselves?
Because we're trying to find what we need in ourselves in the other person. And we expect them, I'm talking from my own experience, for them to fulfill those needs. And when they don't, what happens? You get angry, you get frustrated. You think, oh, this person's terrible, but it's not true. This person is a human being with their own feelings and emotions and needs as well. And, it's just, we're all having this soup on this planet of dealing with our, beingness.
Well, and because television and movies have fucked us up for decades and generations.
Yeah. And Disney.
When was the last time that you saw the reality of, tell me a movie where you see someone taking the garbage out?
Yeah.
You don't see the reality of what the life is. So we have the expectation that the false belief that everybody out there is just all sunshine, roses, and happiness. Ralph and I work diligently on our relationship, and I work diligently on myself. Ralph works on himself, and then we come together to have a relationship together.
Mic drop.
It's fucking hard work. It's hard. It makes it and not that it's like 100 push-up hard. I mean that it has, you don't see what's coming around the corner all the time when you've got obstacles and challenges. And I'm like Richard. I told Ralph, I mean, if you leave, I'll find you. I'll put you in the trunk of my car. I'm in it to win it. I plan on being that person in his life. And I have, there are rules to dating a firecracker, dating, fiancéing, marrying a firecracker. I will not be, I'm not submissive. Surprise.
But I think for me, it's kind of like, I never want to be without my bride, but if she ever did leave, by the end of the night, I wouldn't be by myself anymore. I just, because there's not many good men out there. So once one is out there, they're not going to be on the market for very long. But I think that's when you have that self-confidence to say, I am who I am. I love who I am. I'm a good person. So I don't depend on you. I want you in my life. but I don't need you in my life. And I think there's a big difference between being codependent and not being dependent at all. To be interdependent is the word I was looking for.
Yes, exactly.
Well, and I think there's too, like, I noticed that the trials in my marriage happen when I'm traveling. If I'm not home, that's when the trials happen, because it gives my husband all of this time up here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And when there's too much time up here, shit hits the fan.
Yep.
And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it also gives us the opportunity to, how can we redirect this? How can we adjust the sails? What needs repair? Where are we still? There's still cracks in the foundation. But I also know, because as a believer, I also know that the devil's job is to separate. So if we're apart already in that physicality, what better way than to attack when we're apart in the physical?
Ooh, shadow. Actually, it's the shadow time where we need to go within ourselves to see what areas we need to work on with the light and love. Shadow. We're devils, just so on it.
It's icky. So
It's
I
icky.
know that
It's again over media sized devil.
Well,
Right.
and I know that's where a lot of the work happens, you know, where, I mean, for example, when I was in Florida, most of the time that I was gone, we were fighting. And it wasn't even like on the phone, it was through text message. And then I got real vulnerable, like I never had done before. And I voice texted him, and I was crying on that voice text of, like, this is all the shit that's being stirred up and all the things that I was in the process of breaking through on that trip in Florida. So I needed that to show up as the best version of myself at the event that I was at, to be able to be in my bold self now. And so I thanked him for that crap that it drew out. And it helped us realize some things as well, where his fears are and that kind of a thing. So it was a definite good thing that it did stir that up. But again, you choose your heart. Do you want to work through it, or do you just want to throw in the towel?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I could have said no, and I'm not coming home. But my reaction was, okay, I come home in a couple of days. He better pick me up from the airport. So it was you better not abandon me, buddy, because I need a ride home. But no, I mean, relationships can have such an impact on our mental health. And it's whether or not you really want to weather the storm, or if you want to sink with the ship. And some situations, like you said, Annette, you're better off apart than what you are together. So there is a time and a place for those situations. But if you're not in a relationship that is abusive in any of those manners, and you just want to throw in the towel because it gets too hard, well, then why the hell did you get married in the first place? Because the first obstacle that comes your way, you want to quit. Are you a quitter, or are you a winner? Like, what, you're going to keep bouncing from relationship to relationship. And what's the common denominator in all the relationship failures? It's you. It's because you're not dealing with your crap. So deal with the baggage. And like you said earlier, Annette, and I'll end on this, as far as you lose yourself in who you are. You stay in the marriage because you've got your spouse and your kids, but you don't have hobbies. You don't know who you are as a person. I'm going to encourage you, find out who you are. Yeah. Find out what you're made of. And if you have no idea how to do that, well, that's why my title says the Self-Care Mama. Because that's what I help moms do, is find who they are again. I've lost myself in the seas of motherhood and marriage. I've been overwhelmed. I've been exhausted, burned out, in the hospital. I've been all of those places. But I had to make a decision of, no, I need to oxygenate me to be able to be the best mom I can be, to be the best wife I can be. It had to start with me. And if I wasn't willing to make it start with me, then shit, I should just be depressed, 500 pounds laying on the couch somewhere, because I was that just checked out of life, of this is it. This is all there is. It's not fun, but I had to find me. I had to begin to love who I was.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's how the cookie crumbles, as they say. I think that's just mic drops right there. I think that's how it is.
Great end.
Next week, so thanks for ending this all. Next week, Nance is not here, shame. But we've got Chris Roush here.
I'm trying. I'm still trying.
We've got Chris Roush coming on next week. Chris Roush, no excuses, coach. He's coming.
Okay, I may
guys,
need. Okay. If I'm there,
guys,
I'm getting my hair done, and I will.
If you haven't watched Chris Roush's episode with that man, you need to check out that episode with Chris Roush. That was fire. So if you get a chance, check out the interview between Chris and Adam. Awesome.
Oh, you know what? I know the power of Chris's group accountability program, and if I had not been a participant in that program, I would not have accomplished what I accomplished last year and what I'm going to accomplish this year. You need to have a group that you participate in. Life isn't a solo act, ladies and gentlemen. Got to jump on board with those.
Yeah.
I will, Ashley. I will. I will.
I haven't been on a podcast with Chris yet, so this will be exciting.
Absolutely.
So he's on next week with you, Adam?
Chris Roush is coming on next week, but guys,
What's your topic?
It's not 7 p.m. this time. It's literally this time right now, but next week. This time, so I ain't got a clue what time it is where you are. I can't memorize it.
So it's our
what was the topic?
Like our summertime time. So
it's
PM
don't judge a person from their behavior.
Okay.
Nance, are
Do you
you
want
in
to be
Central
part of that,
Time?
Annette?
I'm in Central Time, so it would be 1:00 Central Time. Mountain Time. No, I'm Mountain Time. I'm Mountain Time. Sorry,
Mountain time.
Sweets.
So it would be
Mountain
1
Time.
o'clock Mountain Time,
No,
2 p.m. Central Time.
1:00. Yeah, 1:00. Because right now is 1 where I am here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Burr.
And 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Annette, do you want to be part of that next week or not?
Have no idea what I'm doing next Friday.
We can
next
talk off
Friday
this
I'm not
anyway. We'll
available.
talk off it. But yeah,
I'm not
thanks
available.
for all. And please subscribe, everyone. Please share the shit out of this. Please connect with all these lovely people. And let's keep kicking ass. And we'll see you next week.
Bye for now.